What's good, y'all? You know it's what time it is. Once again, this is time for Elevated Vibes Radio.
We're back.
That's so right.
We're back. Elevated Vibes come out to play.
Well, y'all know the deal. I'm your boy Abdul Rashid, and I'm here with the boss man Mike B. And we once again have a special guest, Mr. John Lash, everybody.
Woohoo! Thank you for coming out.
Yes,
we know you've been busy. Your feet tired, but we're so grateful to have you here in the studio.
I got a semi-suit and some flip-flops.
Hey. No, that's how everybody doing Zoom these days. So,
right.
You know, professional up top, casual at the bottom. So
Right.
Y'all don't even want to know what I got on under here. So, you know.
Be good. It's a family show, brother.
Hey, man, I've been working on my legs for the summer, dude. I'm working on my legs for the summer.
Now, let me remind y'all to give us a call, 708-223-8953. Once again, that is 708-223-8953. And you can always check us out on many venues. I know you already are, like on IntellectualRadio.com, as well as iHeartRadio, which would be tomorrow.
Yep.
But still, you can check us out there, tune in, and so forth. Just reminding you of all of that. And thanks to y'all who's checking us out on Facebook Live right now.
Yeah, and if you got to leave and go out, just put that phone on IntellectualRadio.com and tune in. Just hit that listen to the live stream so that you can not miss out on the consciousness and elevation that we're going to bring you today.
There you go. Now, once again, like I told y'all, we got a special guest here, Mr. John Lash, the man who should have been in office in my book, but I'm going to digress upon that part. Okay. For mayor of Aurora, Illinois. Okay. Now, myself and Bossman will have a few questions to ask you just upon with, you know, excuse me, and I apologize, y'all, and to you as well, John, for your run and so forth. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But also on the national scene and so forth. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right, cool. You want to start, Mike B, or would you like for me to start?
Well, first of all, thank you for coming in. We know it's been a long, grueling campaign season. You had to deal with COVID and overcome numerous challenges that probably would not have been present and things like that. So first and foremost, why don't you tell us, why did you decide to run for the mayor of Aurora? As we all know, Aurora is the second largest city in the state of Illinois, probably one of the most diverse. I'm not sure where we are in terms of diversity in terms of Chicago, but definitely up there in terms of diversity across both racial, social, and economic backgrounds. Mm-hmm. And so it seems to me that you have to have a multi-coalition strategy to win in a city like Aurora. So first of all, tell us how you got involved in politics in Aurora, and then why did you choose to run this time around? And we're going to jump a little bit ahead. You gonna run again? We starting the campaign, y'all. We starting the campaign right here, right now.
It's all ready. We can definitely talk about next steps, I'd say. So first, thanks for having me on here. It's an honor to be here, and appreciate you guys giving our campaign a voice earlier during the campaign cycle, and here as we wrap things up.
Yes.
I decided to run for office based on a number of things. I think our nation is and was divided, and we needed somebody to unite us. Secondly, I saw that the city was not addressing the demand forum from the post-May 31st riots in downtown. Nobody was addressing the root causes of those riots. They're still not being addressed, which is largely systemic racism and inequality.
Okay.
Those things still exist. You mentioned that we're a diverse city, but we're still not a government that works for everybody. And third is tied to the national scene. I'm a climate activist, a green builder. I had sat on a National Democratic Party platform committee. I'd pushed some amendments that said subsidizing fossil fuels. We give fossil fuels $20 billion every year of our tax money.
Crazy little.
We were talking about pork earlier, right?
Yeah.
Right? So, I had said we shouldn't be subsidizing those. They yanked my amendments, and I started thinking about what I could do locally. So there's a lot of these local things that were happening. And I was thinking to myself that we could make the City of Lights a beacon of hope and tackle income inequality, racial injustice, the climate crisis, and start working on those things. And over the period of 4 to 15 years, be a strong, booming economy and a model city. So those things didn't come together on the night of the election, which was yesterday. But I've been at this since you asked how I got involved in politics. I've been at this since the Iraq War started back in 2003.
Wow.
And trying to build grassroots people-powered campaigns. Some of those have been successful. Some of them have not been successful. This is one that's not successful, and we'll regroup and decide how to invest and continue to impact the national discussion, the local discussion, and advance the causes of a government and economy that works for everybody.
Well, John, we try to keep things elevated here, so we didn't say it wasn't successful. You just didn't find a way to win. That it's a difference. It's a difference. I think one of the things that I've heard people say about you is that you're a man of the people, that you're very grassroots, that you're friendly, relatable, and things like that. I think part of the issues that we talked about was just the lack of coverage of Aurora politics. Is sadly for us to be the second largest city, is just not covered by local news. Like, we always get Chicago news. We know what's happening with Mayor Lightfoot. We know what's happening with Governor Pritzker. But for us to be the second largest metropolitan city and to have what I consider a black hole of information and politics, these things that we find out about Mayor Irving and things like that just seem to be passed down like legacies. It's just word of mouth kind of thing, whereas there's been no true investigation of what's happening. It's interesting that you bring up the diversity as well as some of the racial politics, given the background of and Mayor Irving's racial profile and your racial profile.
Right.
Just for stark contrast, there has been some issues, and how some of the racial components have been handled by a black mayor, and that you're bringing to the forefront as a person of
a white guy,
not color.
Right.
So, can you talk a little bit more about that and what happened in was it May 31st? With of course we know that dealt with a verdict, and I would like to see or talk about with what's going on now. With this big trial in Minnesota, with Derek and all of that stuff, and anticipatory control, as I like to call it, where we see these cities running out and treating their downtowns as militarized zones. Is it your opinion that that's antagonistic? How would you handle it if you were a mayor? But let's talk about some of the racial components and what you saw and what spurred you to action back on those days.
Well, the issue is, I said the root causes haven't been addressed, right? Aurora has a 12% poverty rate, and it's my neighborhood. It's black and brown.
Okay.
That's where it's at, right?
Yes.
So and that comes back to the wealth inequality. And so really to address these root causes, I think we need to have an economy that works for everybody. So everybody's got to have equal opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the root causes. So to how would I handle the protests and the riots? Certainly, I think diffusing the situation earlier during that day and giving those people a voice at the microphone in front of the police station on May 31st probably would have diffused a lot of the anger. Sitting down with those people, calling them in at the conference table and saying, let's talk about what we can do.
Oh, so you're trying to do what they call these de-escalation techniques that seems to vanish when the stuff hits the fan. What you're really talking about is proactive de-escalation, giving people a voice, making sure that their protests are heard, that they're acknowledged, that their pain is heard, and things like that. It just seems with certain cities.
It also sounds like democracy. Giving people a voice.
I like that. Yeah, democracy, giving people a voice.
Yeah.
But people don't get together and protest and riot unless they're upset about something.
Yeah.
Right. You don't. Most of us be like, rather, let's just cook out in the backyard. Let's hang out.
Yeah.
I got to wash my car and pick up my clothes from the dry cleaner and take my kid to the soccer practice. That's what most people are thinking about and would rather do with their Saturday. They don't want to have to get together and practice this democracy. But when their voices aren't heard, that's when they do. So whenever there's a big group of people protesting something, you need time out and listen to them.
Okay. So did you not think that happened this time? And if you were mayor and anticipating that in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, that we're going to have a verdict on the Derek Chauvin jury trial, what would you do to try to, because here's my issue, John, is that when, you know, this issue happened up in Wisconsin where the guy was shot in the back several times, you know, the prosecutor came out and said, we're going to announce. And so you see these cities now starting to get prepared, like they're rolling in the dump trucks, they're shutting down the downtowns, they're telling people to board up. It's almost as if they're treating the protesters as criminals, and we have done nothing except, you know, make our pain known.
Right.
And so you get this anticipatory backlash, but I'm not sure if that's helping or if it's more antagonistic. Like it's like me coming up to you with my fist clenched, and you automatically going to assume a militaristic stance. So when you predisposition yourself to like, we're going to board up the downtowns, we're not going to let traffic come through downtown. You know, we want to, I always say that, you know, we want to control the protest and how the protests happen. Well, that's not protest. The purpose of protest is to cause pain, to make change, you know, and I don't necessarily agree with tearing up places, but it seems to me that it's only when things are burning that
people are listening.
Are listening. You know, we try to rationalize with you. We try to send envoys. We use our athletes. We use our best intellectuals to come here and say, look, this is what's happening. But when those pleas fall on deaf ears, when you tell me that taking a knee is too much in protest, that Cornell is too militant, or, you know, our other people coming forward saying, you know, this is what's going on, and that's met with, you know, a turn back and a deaf ear. Well, when I finally start burning something or burning down something and insurance got to get involved, that's the only time that politicians and the government seems to listen. So how do you feel about that? And what do we need to do to change?
Well, it shouldn't get to that level, right? So, and the other piece of that is, you know, elections, we had pretty low turnout, right?
Yes.
What
was the turnout for yesterday? If you know,
I don't know off the top of my head. It was low.
It was low. Okay.
It was lower in 2017. It was slightly higher than 2019.
Okay.
So, I'll have final numbers. We'll do a summary wrap up of the numbers and how we played out in each precinct and what we did that worked. It'll be some detailed analysis to what we do.
Okay.
I think I almost forgot your question, but what
do we do in these situations? Like, how would you anticipate,
I think
what would you do?
You got to address the root causes. You got to make sure that when I say a government and economy that works for everybody, you got to create economic opportunities that are reachable and achievable for everybody. It's not a bumper sticker slogan like equity that we throw around and we're going to have equity. And if you looked at all the flyers that we got delusioned with in the mail, it was all largely just slogans and bullet points with no substance behind it. And at the end of the day, you got to look at the statistics and do people of color have the same opportunities? I suppose, but is that the normal? Right? I mean, Barack Obama becoming presidency is an anomaly.
Right.
You can't look at that and say,
well,
racism's over. Everybody's good. If he can become president, it's over. I mean, because this is what they always do is they take these anomalies and they elevate them and call them the norm. And they're not the norm. You've got to look at the norm and the statistics to ask yourself how good a society is doing, and continue to work in that direction. So as mayor, that's what I would have done. I think that's what I'll continue to advocate for, is greater economic opportunity for everybody. So I don't know if that really answers your questions about how I would handle getting ready for Derek Chauvin's trial.
Okay. Would you anticipate shutting down downtown, or rolling out the dump trucks and closing down Route 59 and all the things that we saw when the Wisconsin verdict or non-verdict came out?
Right. Well, I'm hopeful that they come up with the right verdict for Derek Chauvin. They did for the officer in Chicago.
Yeah.
Right.
So
But you just got through speaking on anomalies, so
well,
let's not take that one and make
here's
it.
the fact that so before May 31st, I was involved. I went to the first Black Lives Matter protest over in Plainfield on the 29th.
Okay.
And my sign said "Arrest Derek Chauvin now," because
you
the
go.
reality is they didn't even get arrested before, right?
Exactly. They had to fire him and everything else. Then they decided to arrest him.
Yeah.
After that,
Yeah. So the fact that he got arrested is probably unusual in and of itself.
That's true, because usually the qualified immunity comes in, and then, well, there you go. It
Right.
usually doesn't happen. So
Yeah.
truly understandable. I'm gonna take this a little bit back towards the campaign. Okay.
Sure.
All right. Now, one thing that I was told in many circles, and I seen for myself as well, you ran a very clean campaign, a very clean one.
Mm-hmm.
What's some things that you would say to those who don't run such clean campaigns as yours?
Or should you have slung a little bit more mud? I mean, we've had
Right.
some topics that
Right.
you.
Here's I made two mistakes, and I feel responsible for them.
Okay.
One mistake is we did exit polling while the people early voted that showed us with a slight lead.
Yes.
And
I was going to ask you about that.
I published that information, and I basically painted a bullseye on my back.
Okay.
And then both of the other two
Okay.
attacked and cut whatever deals they had to make for Chris Lausen and Annette Johnson to write salacious, false statements.
Okay.
Okay.
So, and misleading.
And let's not forget the trashy flyers that we were
Okay.
referencing
Sure.
earlier that you said came out.
Well, sure. They the information was the same. They
Okay.
put it out in mailers. They put it out on social media. They put it out in full page ads in the Beacon News.
Okay.
And Judd ran
I just found it.
false. What do you call those? Robodials. So
Right.
it's been all over. But I mean, the deep ironies of this is even they said that I can't believe it was Lausen and Irvin himself that said that I refused to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and turned my back on Black and brown people. Number one, I took a knee
Right.
during the anthem at the school board meeting,
Mm-hmm.
which is not turning your back. That's standing in solidarity
Exactly.
for the things
Because
that Brother Kaepernick stood for.
Right. And if they look back at what the reason why Kaepernick started doing it and so forth,
The root cause.
Right.
Yeah.
they would see that that's being very patriotic. I
Yeah.
mean, he also got a suggestion from if I'm correct, he got a suggestion
former
from a
veteran.
soldier.
Who was a veteran, who was a
Right.
football player. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
And it was a compromised position.
It was a compromise. Yeah.
So,
But like you said earlier, he did this to draw attention to systemic racism, the shooting of unarmed Black people.
Mm-hmm.
And they blew it out of proportion and said he's unpatriotic, exercising his First Amendment rights.
Correct. Well, I mean, but this gets back to why I talk about the dearth of information on rural politics. There was no one to, the press is considered, the fourth estate, and we rely on the press to, vet our politicians and to let us know about what we don't know. And unfortunately, what happened in this case is that these slanders or libels and slanders were able
Right.
to be pronounced against you with no refutation from any press or anything like that to say, no, this isn't true, this is not false, or this is only, a micro image of what really happened. Here's the more
Right.
expansive view. And, I think that where there's no light shown, stuff will happen in the shady dark to what you're kind of alluding, we've talked about some stuff. So you're kind of alluding
The first thing I did was paint a bullseye on my back, and that was a mistake I made. And the second thing that I did is I didn't defend the attacks.
Yeah.
And we thought that we were going to be okay because we were still getting positive feedback on the doors. But the thing is, people talk about these things as they're walking the dog on a beautiful weather, which is what we had right before the election. And,
Right.
and instead of people talking about corruption and what's going on in City Hall and using taxpayer dollars to subsidize for-profit adventures by campaign donors, that were talking about my school board attendance, and oh my God, he didn't stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, so which was untrue. I stood for the pledge whenever they said the pledge, but anyway, it's those were two mistakes that I made, and I own those mistakes, and I feel bad because I thought that we had a real powerful campaign. And at the end of the day, instead of throwing mud, look, I wanted this to be about bringing our country together, about a positive vision for our city, and to be a role model city. And in that role model city, I don't think that character assassination should be part of it.
So, and like I said, many of us, we applaud you for that. I know I do, because that's how you get the real information to the people. We can mudsling all day. I think everybody between this room, outside these doors, we could find something to mudsling or, at somebody. That's not hard.
The politics of destruction.
Right. And what we all should be doing, just like what you're about, is building, and the problem is that people, they lose their way of that. And that's one thing that what we try to do with the show here, and that you do, we're trying to bring people back to the way, not saying that we're controlling them, but the way that they should be.
Focus on the positive.
Right, on the positive and building and so forth. So, I just wanted to put that out there, and that I do applaud you, and many others do applaud you. In many ways, you have started like almost a mini movement out in Aurora. And you are the face of that movement at this moment in time.
At this time.
And one thing I do have to ask you is, how will you keep that fire burning for this movement?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the hope that we did see. Because I wrote an email, I haven't sent it out, thanking everybody for their support and telling them where we go from here.
Okay.
The best, most exciting moments of this campaign, we're seeing young people out on the streets, knocking on doors, getting their friends out to vote. They hadn't done it. What I saw is future candidates. I saw future leaders of America, future leaders of Aurora. And so that is my one commitment, is to invest in those people that I believe are promising future, that were inspired, and that are going to take up the mantle of leadership and put their own name on a ballot, hold rallies, lead our community. I think we need to support them. Like you said here at Elevated Vibes, you try and lift people up. Right. That's what we got to do. We got to get behind them. And running against big money at the grassroots level takes an immense amount of work. And they're going to need our support. They're going to need us to get out there and work for them. And I'll be doing that. I can commit to that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And that, to piggyback on what Rich was saying, if you were campaigning or teaching, or you're teaching an online class, and I say, John, I want to get involved. I want to make a change. I don't like what's going on here. Where do I start? Where can a young person? Well, I'm not that young anymore, but where do you start? 18-ish. Yeah, I like that. Where do we start? And where can we, because everybody wants to get involved in politics to make a change. Last week we had a lady who was running for the Board of Education, and we discussed that all politics are local. Like, if you want to control what your children are learning, run for the board, for these local school boards. Right. To your point, like what we're seeing, I almost think of Aurora as a tale of two cities.
It's so true.
Yeah, I mean, like literally, you cross one street, and you're like, oh, this different than the part I come from. So. And I think that has been one of the criticisms of this current administration, is that all the largesse that's coming to Aurora seems to be flowing one way and is not being distributed equally. So we continue to run into some of those problems that you talk about, with, the racial strife, socioeconomic strife. So if you were teaching a class and I said, John, I want to get started, what do I do? What can I do?
Well, so the any new volunteer that came into our campaign, I would personally go out door to door with them, because I want to show them how we do it, how we have the one-on-one conversations. I want to get to know them personally, talk about their situation, why they're out here. Okay. And I want to show them what needs to be done. It's politics 101. If you actually go to a political science class, they're going to teach you policy. Yep. They're going to teach you structure, about how the government is structured, about how a bill flows through committee. None of that's real. You got to be good. You got to be good at raising money and talking to voters.
Okay.
Those are the things you need to do. So I try and give people a real world experience of what a campaign looks like. And then you need to explore what that person's interests are. Do they want to be involved in social media outreach? Do they want to be involved in door-to-door campaigning? Do they want to be behind the scenes working on data, working on tech stuff? Do they want to be involved in the media, whether it's alternative or regular messaging? Everybody wants to be involved in messaging. I think you should say this. You get a lot of that, right?
Right.
And that's part of what our campaign did, was try and give, use those opinions, because that's democracy. It's giving somebody's opinion voice in your campaign.
Okay.
They want their issue heard. You carry it forward. If you agree with it, you carry it forward and you articulate their vision. And then it becomes not my campaign, it becomes our campaign. And that's how we build a movement.
Okay.
So that one-on-one knocking on doors, I think, is the best experience, because there's two ways to campaign, just like we got two cities. One way to campaign is sit on the phone all day and talk to rich people that can donate to your campaign.
Sounds like a strategy one of your competitors engaged in.
I would say 90% of the people, if not more, 95% of the people in office get there that way.
Wow.
Right.
Because that is the school, the politics 101 that they are taught. In their first campaign experience, somebody puts them on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
Well, call these 25 donors. One of them is going to give you money.
Wow.
And so that's what they do. But our structure is built on you talk 25 voters, and at the end of the first day, it'll be rough because you're still learning the ropes and the messaging. You're not smooth at the door, but you'll get that one voter that's like really committed, and you made a difference, and you felt like I turned my one vote into two. Right. And as you get better at it, you can walk home every day and say, I got 5.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So you can see the just the very first day, you're talking to people that have money, or you're talking to voters listening to their opinions. Now, which one is more democratic? If you get into office, who are you going to represent when you get there? The people that got the money, the people that you talk to throughout the campaign. If you get in by talking to voters, who are you going to represent?
Okay.
The people.
Well, I mean, you're advocating for the older folks. No, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington kind of approach. That's an old black and white movie. If you haven't seen it, it portrays democracy, I guess, at its best and at its finest. It represents an idea, of what we think democracy and what should happen. Mr. Smith. And we'll get to this a little bit later in the show, the filibuster, where he engages in the oral filibuster, or for younger folks, West Wing. These ideas that we think that it's okay to be adversarial, but at the end of the day, politics has to take place, and there has to be some kind of compromise, which, as you alluded to earlier, the national mood of this country is a us versus them. And us is good and them is bad. And depending on what side of the coin you're on, you see yourself as either Jedi or Darth Lord, So that's great. So starting tomorrow with this, I want to say you're kind of like the Bernie Sanders of Aurora, and I don't mean that in a slight or whatever.
No, you're not the first person. You're not the first person to say that.
I mean,
I like Bernie.
I was a Bernie staffer in 2016.
I did not know that. I did not.
And I went as a Bernie delegate to the national convention in 2020. So yeah, I'm still feeling the burn.
Okay. I'm with you on that.
He was an inspiration in many ways, and an inspiration probably for you and many more other folks to, how can I say, build the community and build a platform that is more fair to every person out there. Not just the rich. And I'm not knocking them for once. I usually do.
You knock the burn, or you knock the rich. The rich. Oh,
not.
I'm not knocking them. I just want to make sure we move some of the money back where it needs to be, out of their pockets and into the pockets of everybody else.
Exactly. And that's the same thing that I'm saying,
Yeah, I mean, it seems like we've entered a new Gilded Age. I remember visiting, I think me and my wife went to New Hampshire, and, you saw the homes of the Vanderbilts and all of those people when they didn't have to pay income taxes, and
Yeah.
and now it seems like they only pay income taxes in name only. Like
Right.
they're putting the money into, and so we saw these fabulous 27-room mansions, and the
Wow.
servants stay down in there, and and these huge massive kitchens. These places were built in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and so you see the fine splendor of these architecture, but you're like, my God, how much money did these people have? Like,
Right.
you don't have to give anything back. And kind of towards, the Sanders thing is, your employees take the roads there, you benefit from police, you benefit from fire departments, all of these services that these massive corporations and these CEOs benefit from, but they don't
pay. We pay.
And it's like, I think President Biden came out today and just said, I'm tired of people getting fleeced. Like, he just said it. Like, let's be real. He was like, yeah, I want to raise a corporate rate because I'm tired of people getting fleeced. So, but let's bring it back to Aurora. What are you seeing as the future challenges? I know you've talked about, this, economic, the socioeconomics. What do you see coming down the line that will present a problem from this administration? And what do you think needs to be done about it?
I can't predict what the administration is going to do.
Of course.
They've got millions of dollars coming from the federal government for the COVID relief. We'll see how they use it. This idea that they're just going to roll over the taxpayers and do what they want, I think is a flawed idea. That so there was several issues that came up. There was a gas station they were trying to put in, a Circle K at the corner of Farnsworth and Molitor Road.
Okay.
And the annexation agreement for that property said they would not include a gas station on it because all the people that lived there in a floodplain are on well water. Oh. So if there's any oil or gas runoff, it's going to contaminate their drinking water.
Okay.
Right. So this was just put on pause. Well, we got an election. We'll go back to it after the election.
So we know what's going to happen.
Legacy Fields, they're talking about putting the central garage there, $35 million project. It'll depreciate their property values. And what it'll do is they want to knock down all those buildings between River's Edge Park and Illinois and put up high-end condos along the riverfront. So they want to...
No, I'm sorry. I was just thinking about eminent domain, and that's what you just made me think about that with, that possibility of trying to pull that against those properties over there.
Yeah, I mean, the city owns a lot of property. They'll probably just buy up all those, all that property. That's probably the plan. I couldn't tell you for sure. It just seems to be part of the strategic plan. Mm-hmm. But what it's doing is giving the campaign donors who will develop that property improved property values right along the river, and depreciating somebody else's property values in Legacy Fields. And the people in Legacy Fields won't want. So that project was put on hold. And then, now we'll see what happens. So I'm saying we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens.
Okay.
Because I don't want to predict what Richard Irvin was going to do or not do from this moment forward.
Okay.
The large conservative voter turnout that put him in office, I think, might not know exactly what he plans to do. And I think they're going to become more disillusioned. So in Aurora, we'll be looking at who we're going to run in 2023. There'll be an alderman at large seat up. There'll be five alderman seats up.
Okay.
And I'm hoping some of the young people who ran and helped me out are going to put their name on the ballot.
Okay.
Now, that's a message to all you young folks. Get into politics, get into local politics, make the change that is needed for all of us, honestly. Now, let me ask you this as well. What do you suggest for those that don't want to play with the politic game, but they do want to make change? They honestly do. What do you suggest when it's something that they don't agree with Richard Irvin or those that he owes? I'm going to put it like that.
Indebted to.
Yeah. Okay. Those that he's indebted to, they do something against the people, and the people want to make a change of it. If they're not getting into politics, what do you suggest that they do to, have them reconsider some of that thought process?
Well, the first thing I would encourage anybody to do is, if you disagree with something that's being done in City Hall, you contact your elected representative and tell them that you disagree and that you want how you want them to vote.
Okay.
Right? That we're a representative democracy. So if we get enough of us contacting our lawmakers, elected officials, and tell them what we want or what we don't want, that they listen to us. So that's the hope. So that's step one. The second step is to actually attend a city council meeting and have your voice heard in that 3-minute public comment, whether you're for something or against something. And then the next step is organizing, because you can't go alone and expect to change anything.
Okay.
You've got to bring an army with you. So we are going to continue to organize here in the city of Aurora for the things that we want. I think sometime this week we're going to have a meeting at the grassroots level to talk about what our agenda looks like and what ideas we want to advance, and then talk about strategies to advance those ideas. Now, I might be completely wrong, and what he said on election night, that this was a chance for him to double down on the policies he's been running on, is I'm wrong, and he's an evolved man, but I haven't seen it yet. We'll wait and see.
Okay.
All right.
Well, before we go to commercial break, because I know we head into commercial, what is your future in politics? What can we expect out of John coming up? You know, are we going to run again, or do you see yourself as kingmaker? What's next for you?
I've never seen myself as a kingmaker. I'm just as happy being behind the scenes and helping someone else who's highly qualified, believes the things that I believe in. And so I have no problem playing a row in the back seat, a supporter, and I have no problem getting out front. The one thing I've committed to is supporting those young people I think that I want to see continue to carry the ball forward. I'll make my own decisions personally about what I want to do. I don't see myself as it's never been about me. It's about we. It wasn't me that decided to run. It was a we decision. And we decided that we could try and push forward a real positive agenda. And, we were not 100% successful in that effort, but we will decide what our next steps are and we'll move forward. So, and we'll welcome other people that want to be part of that.
Well, when we decide to run again in 4 years, we want you to come back on this show.
I'll be back here as often as you want to talk about it.
You ain't gotta wait 4 years.
You know what we could do? We could do a regular segment where we get an update on the council and bring different people in that have different issues going, and maybe be that alternative press that you were talking about. Some of the details aren't getting covered, right? Or they do something bad, but it's covered in a favorable way.
Right. Yeah, we would absolutely love that. We want to use this as a platform for getting out from just Chicago news. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love Chicago. Chicago is dear to my heart. But, I live in Aurora now. There seems to be a dearth of information available about Aurora. And as we said earlier, where there is no light, shady stuff will happen. And
I like that
we saw that happening here in this campaign, and, the lack of accountability on the part of, some of your opponents, the lack of investigation, I find disconcerting. I think that, there's a reason why they say, kill all the lawyers, it's because where there is no knowledge and education, people can do whatever they want, and so that's why you get rid of all, we don't have press coverage, or why we don't, have the news cover, because then we can do whatever we want. And by the time the people figure out, it's already over, so that's what we want to do.
And as proof, I ran a positive campaign. I didn't tell one lawyer joke, and I was running against two of them.
I appreciate that. That's true. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
So check it out, y'all. We're gonna take a quick break, and we'll be right back. This is Elevated Vibes Radio on IntellectualRadio.com. And let me remind you guys, the number to call, 708-223-8953.
Give us a call.
All right, Elevated Vibes Radio, we are back.
We're
Once
back.
again, I am Abdul Rashid. That is the boss man, Mike B, and our special guest, Dr. Well, I'm not going to say doctor. I'm sorry, sir. John Lash.
It's a candidate for a John. So, as we were talking during the break, we just wanted to talk about, what's kind of happening nationally. I know you're a politician. We already discussed that you haven't been keeping up with a lot of the things because you've been busy running a campaign for the second largest city in Illinois. So I can understand why, you may not have been keeping up, but I do want to get your ideas. And you kind of alluded to this earlier about the national mood, about this us versus them. And I kind of want to get your opinion because, you were part of Bernie Sanders and things like that. What do you think has contributed? I mean, even, like I said, I'm a child of the 80s. I just don't remember such polarization. And I'm not sure when it started happening, but this us versus them, why has that taken root in our country? And and I'm asking you to solve this answer as, with your wisdom and oversight, what can we do about it?
Well, it's an excellent question. I've thought about it because I had to think about the question, how would I bring our city together? Mm-hmm. And there's things think about the times that we've come together as a nation. 9/11.
Yes.
Henry Pratt.
Right.
So is there something else that could bring us together other than tragedy? My plan had been to focus on the climate crisis and have it bring us together. But we could have looked at this last crisis with the pandemic and it could have brought us together. So I think part of it is actually just the sheer level of narcissists that are involved in politics who all they care about is their public image. And so when a narcissist is attacked, all they care about is defending their public image. And so the only thing they know how to do is counterattack. And it's both sides. Both sides are filled with those kinds of people. They're very prevalent in politics because they care about image. And sadly, what sells in America is image.
Yes.
We tend to buy a well-packaged candidate than one who's got deep substance, maybe even experience and compassion and some of the values that we want in people. We're willing to buy that well-packaged image that might not be reality.
I don't know if we're buying it or as much. I don't know, because I don't think we got that in our last package. Like, it wasn't packaged well. Like, we, I mean,
right. I'll take that back. Yeah.
The people who purchased that knew exactly what they were getting. I mean, that's like going to a lot and you get the Carfax report and they told you, like, this car been in 5 accidents. There was some frame damage. It was flooded. It won't start on the 5th turnover.
Yeah.
And we still chose to, I'm sorry, the majority of people, no, that's not true. The Electoral College chose to purchase that package, and people want to sit around shocked and aghast when the car don't start. Like, so
yeah.
I don't know if that's really the answer, John. I mean, there's something that is taking root in this country where I want someone to punish you. I don't care about governing. I just want them to punish you because I don't like you. And I think that's what that evil spirit has taken over in this country. It used to be in the 80s. Yeah, we don't like you. I'm going to put up with you for 4 years, but there's going to be some compromise. It seems now we're choosing leaders whose specific purpose is to punish the other side. Like, they're the enforcers now. They're not the guy. They're not the Michael Jordans who is out there trying to score. That's what we used to want our politicians. Now we want the Dave Corzines and the Charles Oakleys. Like, I just want you because I know you can hurt the other side. And I don't care what it does to me as long as you hurt.
But see, you also got to look at it too. That is what is pushed out towards the people on a constant basis. See, a person like you, John, who has been in a lot of things that I think some people don't even know about. You military,
sure.
Like you said, the Green Deal. Hey, I even seen an old video of you on C-SPAN.
Oh yeah.
So the people don't know about this because it's not pushed out enough. And sometimes you might have to push it out yourself, but it needs to get pushed out to the people to show them the truth, to show them it's more than, like you said, boss man, this guy punishing. But yet, no, the truth, the building.
Some of it is the psychology of it. So first of all, I want to say, when I said well packaged, I wasn't thinking of Donald Trump. I was thinking about the other people that are there.
That's what he was alluding to, but I kind of left it alone.
But
some of them ain't well packaged either, John. Like, you look at it, you just like, for real, people, this is the best. I feel like my politicians should be as smart or smarter than me. When I look, I mean,
dude, go to Springfield. Go sit on any governing board, and you will quickly be convinced of the opposite. Quickly.
But you remember when Dan Quayle ran, right? And he misspelled potato.
Right.
That was like huge. Like, it was huge. Like, oh my God, Dan Quayle put an E on potato. It's like, oh my God, like, he can't be vice president.
Right.
I remember that. Like, that was like the spelling words, like potato.
But see, they made sure that part was out there, that they, we don't keep talking about this potato thing, potato.
Yeah, but look how far we have sunk from putting an E on potato to what is governing our country now in certain spots. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, certain person running to Mexico when his state is without electricity. I ain't saying no names. I'm just saying you can look up
Ted Cruz.
But
I just put money in the swear jar. Is that why you're not saying these names?
Right. So I don't. And my problem, John, is
so there's a psychology at play. It's just like if I offer you a pink pen and a black pen, which one are you going to choose? Probably going to choose a black pen.
Yeah.
Not because you might actually prefer a blue pen.
Yes.
But I only gave you these two choices, and you don't want the pink pen for whatever reason. It's not common, right? You usually have a black or blue pen.
Right.
But people are more apt to choose something they don't want than something they do want.
Wow. Okay.
It's psychology, and they use that psychology in elections. They used it in my election. They use it pummeling each other on the floor of the House or in Springfield. The whole bullying tactic is what I'm saying comes from that narcissism. That it's the bullying tactic, and once you start bullying someone, well, then you got to defend, and your best defense is another attack.
Okay.
So to me, the solution is trying to find those things that unite us. And I'm still wrestling with the question myself. If I was mayor today and mayor-elect, I would still be wrestling with that question. That's what we'd be talking about, is how do we bring our city together and bring our country together? What can we do to be a role model? So those, I think, just focusing on how you do that starts to change the dialogue.
But isn't part of the bullying, the politicalization of certain messages that shouldn't be, like the Green Deal? That should not be a political, like, we should
masking,
right? Masking, like things that, seem common sense. These things that, like, I love how on the national level, all of a sudden we discover deficits. Like, we shouldn't run deficits. Like, no, households shouldn't run deficits. Governments can run deficits. Like, government runs deficits to build bridges, rebuild streets, dams. Like, a certain state in the Panhandle right now is dealing with flood water because the infrastructure had been built up. So now they're dealing with all of this wastewater flooding over into their drinking water, but it's like you said, these national tragedies tend to bring us together, but then we go into our political cubbyholes and we know it's happening. I'm just kind of interested in, what do you think is the roots of this? Is it because, and I have my theories.
Well, let's hear yours.
My theory is that you have a tyranny of the minority, and that the only way they can hold on to the power is to convince people, as you said, what they want. And the problem I have with us on this side, the D's, is sometimes we are so interested in governing that we forget to punch. And so the other side seems to be better at messaging. They come out and say, deficits, and then we're put into the position, and not necessarily us, but those on the other side are saying, no, this is why we have to explain. Like, they can get their thing out in one phrase: deficits are bad. And you guys sit there and say, no, deficits are okay. Governments can run them because then we can produce money. And then once we produce money, we can do infrastructure. And once we do infrastructure, people go to work. And once people go to work, then we can start taxing. And once we start taxing, we can start paying back. See, that take too long. I've already lost. I lost look, people already done turned off. Like, oh, okay, I got it.
What you could say is deficits were good when they were going to your political buddies and you ran us billions, trillions of dollars into debt. Why, just 2 years ago when you were in charge.
Right.
Agree. You know.
One last question I ask you.
Sure.
All right. Are you going to run for mayor again, or do you have something else in sight? I mean, anything in Congress?
Springfield.
Yeah, my focus is going to be on supporting the other people that I see running. I've been as good of a coach as I have been a candidate. I feel I'm not committing to running. It's not. I think I started off by saying we'll see how Richard does. I don't. In general, it'll be a we decision how I spend my time. You mentioned a lot of the other things that I've done. There's a immigration rights march happening here on the 30th of this month in Aurora, right? We want to be part of that. We want to stand in solidarity with those people.
Okay.
So we're going to continue to build the movement, advance the causes. I'm very focused on the climate. Sometimes you got to look, there's a legal strategy. There's an organizing strategy, an interruption strategy. We were just in the middle of a political strategy. We got all these strategies we can use. And I've been an activist and put people out in the streets for a number of issues. And we've been successful in some of those. We used a national level, international level interruption strategy at the 2016 DNC convention to stop the TPP. That was global. That stopped a global trade deal that institutional partners failed to do for almost 2.5 years. And in one night, we shut it down. So it was just a matter of bringing the right people together, having a we discussion about how we're going to stop it. Everybody going in focused, not fighting. And we did it. Okay. So, to say what is coming around the corner, what we're resisting, or what we're advancing, I've been trying to focus on this idea of what are we going to push for versus what are we going to fight against. And I don't know that people are ready. Most people still seem stuck in that we want to be against something. Yes. So I haven't figured out the answer to how do we fight for something. But I feel like that's part of the answer is what are we going to fight for? Okay. So I'm sorry I'm not answering your question about running again. I appreciate it. It's flattering.
Well, we already got the commitment. He said when we decide
that is
to
true.
Run again, we will come on this show and announce it here. So, that's IntellectualRadio.com, Elevated Vibes Radio. So, John, we got 5 minutes and I want to do rapid fire. The guys already told me, because I was happy a politician was coming on the show. They're like, "No, Mike, you can't monopolize the whole time," because they know I get up for this stuff. So I just want to
I appreciate your views. I have not disagreed with you yet.
Okay. So just want to get your, little blurbs on some of the national politics things that's going on. Where you at on getting rid of the filibuster in the Senate?
Filibuster. Gosh, I quick blurbs. I told you this. Right. When we're using it, we want it. When it's being used against us, we don't want it. That's how people treat the filibuster. I think the Senate has history. It's like the Electoral College, that these are the rules that we play by, and those rules are put in place. Could some of those rules be removed? I think so. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Next one. Electoral College. For it, against it. What you want to do with it?
Against it, but it falls into the same category of these are the rules. And, I don't blame the Electoral College for in the system. I just don't blame that. I think that the 2016 election, we had two very seriously flawed candidates and the corruption. To me, the root causes are always the issue, right? Okay. Getting money out of politics is way more important than getting rid of the Electoral College. Okay. And when they distract us with this stuff like, well, we got to change the rules a little bit. And I get it. I hear why. But you're not dealing with the root cause is that all these politicians are bought and paid for. That's the problem. You got to be focused on the problem.
Okay. What to do about gerrymandering? Should politicians choose? Should we have a board that chooses? What should we do about gerrymandering? I know I'm coming with you with these issues. That's why it's called rapid fire. That's why
every other time I've answered a question about gerrymandering, and I answered it the exact same way I answered your last question. The root cause is the money in politics. We got to get rid of that. Okay. So it's funny because people ask that question about gerrymandering, and again, if you're in a red state and you're controlling the gerrymander, the Democrats are against it. If you're in blue state like Illinois, the Republicans are whining about it. It's like the rules are rigged against you.
Okay. 2 more. Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico, statehood? Should they get statehood?
Yes, they should have statehood. That's easy.
Okay. And should we follow the model that Oregon did with decriminalization of all the drugs? Where would you stand on that? Like Oregon just said the possession of, we're going to treat it as, I think, either a misdemeanor or we're going to put you in treatment. I'm assuming it's for personal use. I can't believe that you have 500 pounds of white snow and Oregon is like, okay, it's just for personal use. But I'm assuming if we use rational measures and someone is in possession of certain drugs within their possession for personal use, where would you stand on that?
I would say let's see how it plays out in Oregon.
Let them be the guinea pigs.
Well, they've chosen to be the guinea pigs. I'm not for it without seeing any more data. But again, let's talk about the root causes. Why do people use drugs anyway? Which is inadequate mental health, an oppressive work system, capitalism, oppressive capitalistic system that pits us against each other, fighting for the scraps while the rich people have everything.
Be careful, John. Right. I want you to run again. They're going to label you a socialist. They're going to label you a socialist.
They just did. That might be you didn't read the negative political man.
Hey, that might be a good thing. That means you for the people, you for the society at hand. So
what do you guys, my turn. We got time. What do you guys think of a people's party?
I'm all for it.
I'm with it.
I think the problem is that we only have two political parties, and so it forces you into this dystopian choice of, like
a pink pen or a black pen when you want a blue pen.
It's like George. One of the most read speeches on, I believe, on the congressional floor is George Washington's farewell speech, when he warned us about political parties, and just having two political parties. I may not fit in with all the paradigms of the Democrats. There are certain things.
Sure.
I'm kind of Republican-ish. Two of them that I'm kind of Republican-ish for. Right. But I shouldn't have to be this either or kind of thing. So I think if you have a third party, it expands more choice. Definitely, as you said, money cancels all of that out, because you'll never have a third party, because as soon as you put a third party behind your name, it's like, oh, ain't that sweet? That's so cute. Okay, go play.
But see, it would have power if the people pay attention to the people's party.
We can't even get them to cover Aurora politics. How are we going to get them to cover a third party?
Again, though, the people pay attention to the people's party.
Yeah, it's just a question I'm asking as I think about how we fix our broken political system.
I mean, short of tearing it down and starting over, I don't know. I mean, at some point, things are just broken. You just use duct tape and spit to keep it going. But I would definitely like to see a more diversity of choice coming out of the Democratic Party. I definitely think we need younger leaders on the Democratic Party side. People are willing to fight. Don't get me wrong. I think, I don't like mudslinging, but I think it has its place. And I think too often we on this side try to run a clean race. And that can.
Well, I've been a fighter before. I've actually never been afraid to get into a fight. In fact, one of my mottos is you can't win a fight if you don't start one. But
exactly,
right.
Sometimes they start it and you got to play defense. But I'm not afraid of a fight. I just wanted to try to advance a different set of ideals with a different way, and it didn't work out. So maybe that was a lesson learned. I didn't
find a way to win. We got them next time.
But that's the end. And we thank you, Mr. Lash, for coming on our show.
Thank you. We appreciate having you. Thank you. Definitely want you to come back. The idea that you fronted about, keeping people involved in the world politics. If you know somebody, please send them forward. We like to have to elevate the people's hearts and minds, not just the minds, but we a show that appeals to the hearts and minds. And we want to keep that going. So thank you for coming out. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
To the people, let me always remind you, you can hit us up on Facebook at Elevated Vibes Radio. And just to remind you all, the number to call here at IntellectualRadio.com is 708-223-8953. It's much love, and we will see y'all next week. This is Elevated Vibes. Peace.